Welcome back to my channel. I am back with another Baddies USA review, so let's just get right into it because this episode was crazy. So obviously we left off with all the baddies showing up to a group dinner that Natalie invited them all to go to, but they didn't actually end up getting to eat, which I'm not surprised about because I think anytime they do a group dinner, the only time we ever seen food involved was maybe 1 or 2 times. Fights broke out immediately, and so we left off with Anna hopping up on the table and she curb stomped Gretchen like she was Seth Rollins at WrestleMania. I thought that was crazy as hell. Like, she literally stomped Gretchen like a roach. Then a bunch of other fights broke out. I mean, you see Tinka and, Cold Killer going at it again. And then you see Smiley and Biggie fighting with each other, which I thought was kind of funny. I mean, this was bound to happen because obviously Biggie slapped Smiley in the face at the reunion a couple of seasons ago. And Smiley has been calling up Biggie's phone pretending to be production when it comes to Zeus. And so the two of them were bound to get into a fight. But I thought it was funny when they were swinging on each other because to me, neither one of them can really fight and they fight the same way. So neither one of them was really doing anything during the fight. And during that fight, Biggie said that the reason why she was fighting Smiley is because Smiley was talking about her boyfriend who passed away and she felt some type of way about that. I don't know if it's true or not because I don't really pay attention to what Smiley does on social media. But if it is true, I do think it's wrong. I think that you should leave people who are outside of the show off limits. But I don't think that's the only reason why the two of them were fighting. Tommy and Scotty end up showing up and they see all the chaos going on. And honestly, I don't feel like it was safe for Scotty to be there, especially because she was pregnant and she's really early on in her pregnancy. Like at this point, she didn't even reach the safe part of her pregnancy yet. So I just didn't feel like it was right for her to be there. But Tinka ends up leaning down to the ground and she picks up the hat that Cold Killer was wearing and she puts it on her head. So obviously Cold Killer felt some type of way about that. So the two of them started fighting again. And honestly, their fight started off really slow. Both of them were swinging, but backing up and not catching each other. And then at one point, Tinka was able to catch Cold Killer and she was able to take over that fight a little bit. I don't feel like either one of them really won, but if I had to choose somebody who won that round, I will give that to Tinka, but not by a lot. Then Lex ends up calling out Tavy and Fauna for a fight because obviously they jumped her at last season's reunion, so she wanted to get her lick back from that, and she said that she wasn't going to keep fighting them. She said she was going to fight them this one time just to do it because of them jumping her, and then after this she was done fighting them for the rest of the season. Now the first round that Tavy and Lex had, we didn't really get to see it because they were fighting up against the wall. It did look like Lex was overpowering Tavy, but I'm not going to say she won the first round because I really couldn't see because they were up against the wall and security was in the way. But then they fought their second round and Lex was definitely swinging and she did catch Tavy a few times and Tavy really did not catch Lex, so I'll give the win to Lex. But she didn't just beat up Tavy the way she did last season. I feel like she could have, but she just chose not to. Then Fauna ends up running up while Lex is being held by security and the two of them start fighting. This was a really quick fight. Neither one of them really did much to each other. I definitely did see Lex catch Fauna a few times. Fauna was definitely trying to swing, but security was definitely in the way. So I don't know who won this fight, but I just feel like I don't think either one of them really cared to fight each other either. Like, you can tell Lex really didn't care to fight Fauna the way she was fighting her last season. That's just what it seemed like to me. And Tavy starts yelling about Lex coming for her, trying to fight her, and she doesn't understand why Lex wants to fight her. And I feel like Tavy is trying to do that thing that she did last season where she was the underdog and the fans were rooting for her because they didn't like Dolly, Lex, and Summer, and they felt like Lex was bullying her. And that's the kind of angle that she's trying to take this season when it comes to Lex, because Lex clearly told her before she ran up on her that the reason why she was fighting her is because she jumped her at the reunion. So for her to sit there and pretend like she didn't know why Lex was fighting her, to me makes it seem like she's just trying to get favor with the fans. Now Tanisha, Judy, Sarah, and Jayla end up showing up and they just see all the chaos that's going on because obviously there were definitely fights on the Bad Girls Club, but not like the way that they fight on Baddies. Summer is over there next to Chrisean and Tesheki and she starts talking about the situation because obviously we know that, Summer went online and she was talking about Tesheki. She was talking about the things that Chrisean was saying about Tesheki and the things that Tesheki allegedly made her do to her. And Summer was saying that, Tesheki did it. So obviously Tesheki was going to have an issue with her. So Tesheki goes over there and she tries to smack Summer. Now she tried to slap Summer multiple times. She didn't catch her the first few times that she swung on her, but she was definitely walking towards Summer trying to smack her. And Summer was telling security to get Tesheki away from her, which is crazy to me because Summer was just popping it in last week's episode to Sukiyana, saying that she'll handle things with Tesheki and that she's not afraid, but it kind of looked like she was afraid a little bit. Now Dolly and Lex were over there trying to keep Tesheki from being able to hit Summer, and I definitely heard Dolly tell Tesheki that she should stop. She was like, "Come on, Tesheki, stop." Like, she was trying to tell Tesheki not to fight Summer, because obviously Summer's not a match for Tesheki, so she doesn't feel like that should happen, especially because Dolly knows that Summer can't really fight, and Dolly fought Tesheki and she knows what those hits feel like, so I don't think she wanted that for Summer. And Lex was definitely over there putting her hands up, trying to block Tesheki from being able to get to Summer. Now, while all of this is going on, Biggie is still yelling things out at Smiley, and so Smiley walks by Anna, because I don't think that she thought that her and Anna had any beef, and it looked like Anna popped Smiley in the face when she walked by her, and at that point Smiley was just standing there, and she said that she felt some type of feeling in her hand. She started saying that she was getting dizzy and she fell onto the floor, and she said that she needed some ice because she couldn't breathe. Now, I don't know if she was lying, but she did say that she has health issues, and we have seen her in the hospital before because she posts everything on social media. I don't know if she was faking. Maybe she couldn't breathe, because we do know that some of the girls on this show can't breathe after fighting. So I'm not going to say she's lying, but this has happened on Baddies Caribbean as well. So it's just like, if she can't handle herself and she can't get her health on track, I don't feel like this is the show for her, because they're going to fight in every single episode. And so I just don't want to see her in the hospital every time she gets into a fight. So Smiley ends up getting taken outside into the ambulance, into the hospital. So that was the end of her for this episode. But then Tinka tells Rolly that she knows that Rolly made up with Tommy last season, but she wants to get it with Tommy because obviously Tommy shot her with the BBs a few seasons ago, and she feels some type of way about that still. So Tommy's standing there talking to some of the girls, and all of a sudden Tinka runs up and she just snatches, Tommy up by her hair. Now, I do not like the sneaking. That's just not something that I like, but I do feel like if she would have asked Tommy to fight, I don't think Tommy would have fought her. I think security would have protected Tommy, only because Tommy says that she really isn't into fighting right now. So I feel like Tinkerbella wanted to be able to get her hands on Tommy, and she felt like the only way that she would be able to do that is by sneaking her. Now, I thought the fans and I thought Chrisean and Scotty were saying that when Chrisean was clocking everybody's tea about being in fake cliques, that all the girls sat there and were quiet and allowed Chrisean to talk to them the way that she was talking to them, but I did not see that in this episode. People were trying to say that Lex was acting scared of Chrisean. I did not see that in this back and forth that they had. It didn't seem like Lex was afraid of Chrisean at all, because Chrisean started saying that there's a bunch of fake cliques because she says that Dolly and Lex allowed Summer to get beat up by Tesheki right in front of their face, but that didn't even happen because Tesheki didn't even get to put her hands on Summer, really. She was trying to swing at her and slap her with an open hand, but Summer kept backing up, so she didn't even really get to touch her. So for Chrisean to say that they just sat there and allowed, Tesheki to beat up Summer, that to me is false. And Dolly and Lex were over there trying to tell Tesheki to leave Summer alone, and Lex definitely had her arms up trying to stop Tesheki from getting to Summer. So to say they just sat there and allowed Tesheki to whoop on Summer, that's not true. So Lex ends up asking Chrisean, what did you want me to do, jump your sister? And then Chrisean was like, no, I didn't want you guys to jump Tesheki, but if it was anybody else, y'all would have jumped in the fight because y'all are always jumping in each other's fights. And that's when Lex asked her, who has she jumped? Because we really didn't see Lex jump anybody, and to say that she just jumps people to me is crazy. The only time she fought for Summer is when it was multiple people going at Summer at one time. She never just jumped up and took fades for Summer. So to say that she jumps in all of Summer's fights, that's not true. So Lex ends up asking Chrisean, well, who did I jump since you're saying that I jump people? And then Chrisean starts telling Lex that she's not just talking about her, she's talking about everybody. And Lex said, well, then when you're talking about everybody, that's including me because you're talking about Summer right now. So that means you're talking about me. So people saying that Lex was acting scared of Chrisean, to me, she wasn't acting scared of Chrisean. I think she was waiting for Chrisean to ask her to fight or for Chrisean to try to sneak her, because we know that Chrisean is good for sneaking people. So at this point, Chrisean and Lex are both standing up. Summer's over there, Tesheki's over there, Dolly's in the corner over there as well. And Chrisean starts saying that she could have jumped Summer with Tesheki, and that's when Lex asked her, why didn't she? So again, Chrisean starts saying that Lex and Dolly allowed Tesheki to beat up Summer, which we saw that did not happen. And so Lex said that the reason why she didn't get involved in the situation between Tesheki and Summer is because she said that she told Summer privately that she didn't agree with the things that she was saying about Tesheki, and she thought that Summer should stay out of it because it had nothing to do with anybody on the cast. That's family issues, and that's how everybody felt about the situation with Chrisean and Tesheki. Like, nobody knows what really happened because none of us were there, so we can't speak on that situation. So Summer getting involved in that, to me, means that she has to deal with what her mouth did. I mean, she caused the trouble with Tesheki, now she has to deal with it. But to just make it seem like Lex and Dolly just sat there and allowed Tesheki to beat on Summer, that's not true. And to say that Lex was acting scared of Chrisean, I did not see that in this episode. I saw her speaking up to Chrisean, and to me, she kept the same energy that Chrisean had with her. To me, she wasn't acting scary. She wasn't copping please. So for people who are saying that, it's because you just don't like Lex and you want to make it seem like she's scared of Chrisean. I didn't get that from this episode. And Dolly said that the reason why she didn't get involved in the situation between Summer and Tesheki is because she felt like she didn't need to, because Summer wasn't getting jumped. It wasn't multiple people fighting her at the same time. And this is what I have to say to a lot of the fans that are coming at Lex and Dolly about this situation. Y'all were saying that they never hold Summer accountable, that they let her do things and run her mouth and say nasty things and they never check her. And then when they told you guys that they talked to her about their issues with what she does off camera privately, you guys said that they needed to do it publicly or else it doesn't count. So when they're publicly now telling Summer in front of the cameras to stop doing this, stop saying that, now you guys are saying that they're bad friends and they don't like Summer. But I thought that's what you guys wanted. Then you all kept saying that the big three jump into each other's fights all the time and they need to let each other fight their own battles. And then when they do that, they allow Summer to handle Tesheki's situation on her own. Now you are saying that they're scary and they're not a real friend. So then Summer starts running her mouth about the Chrisean and Tesheki situation again, and that's when Tesheki comes running over there and she starts telling Summer to mind her business when it comes to her and her sister, and Summer keeps talking, so that's when Tesheki reaches over and she slaps her. Now this time she does catch her. Everybody's arms were up in the way trying to protect Summer from her, but she still landed that slap on Summer's face. Summer did try to swing back, but she missed. Now Tesheki does try to slap Summer again and she starts walking towards Summer, and Summer is backing up, telling security to get Tesheki away from her once again, and that's when Lex puts her arms up to try to keep Tesheki from being able to put her hands on Summer. And you know, Tesheki does end up asking Lex to take her arm down, but Lex doesn't take her arm down until she turns around and sees that Mariah Lynn is over there trying to take the fade with Summer for Tesheki. So Summer and Mariah Lynn end up fighting with each other. It wasn't really a good fight. I will say that both of them kind of fight the same way, but I will give the win to Summer because she caught Mariah Lynn more times, and Mariah was fighting with her head down and Summer was fighting with her head up. Now, when that fight is broken up, that's when Rolly starts saying that she wants to talk to Tanisha. And Tanisha is obviously on guard because she knows that her and Rolly have had words on social media before. And she didn't know if she was going to have to fight because it's probably been a long time since Tanisha has had to fight anybody. So Rolly says that she doesn't want to fight Tanisha. She just wants to have a conversation with her. Rolly tells Tanisha that her feelings was really hurt when Tanisha posted on social media that she felt like Rolly was being a bully when it came to Slim because she continuously kept beating up Slim over and over again that season, and she just felt like it was unnecessary and it was giving bully. Now, Rolly said that the only reason why she kept going after Slim was because Slim talked about her son, and her son is her best friend, and that's the reason why she kept going every time she saw Slim. So she said that it hurt her feelings when Tanisha called her a bully because Tanisha was her favorite bad girl, and so the two of them bonded over the fact that they both have a son, and Tanisha said that she wouldn't allow anybody to talk about her son either, so she understood where Rolly was coming from. That doesn't change the fact that Rolly was doing too much, though. She could have beat up Slim that one time and then left it alone, but she continuously kept beating her up and trying to humiliate her. So to me, I do feel like Rolly was acting like a bully in that situation and she took things too far. However, I feel like this situation between Tanisha and Rolly was handled really well, and I like the way that they communicated with each other without having to get physical. Lemmy ends up coming out because obviously this is a point where Natalie and him were beefing because Natalie had told Lemmy that she felt some type of way about one of his family members posting negatively about her and the other baddies on his social media page. And then she also said that she talked to Lemmy about the fact that one of the security guards were talking negatively about some of the bad girls with the crowd, and she just felt like that wasn't safe because if he's supposed to be a security guard and he's supposed to be protecting these girls, how could they feel like he's going to really protect them and do his job if he's talking bad about them? So I understood where Natalie was coming from in that situation. I know people don't like her, but I'm with her on that. I would not trust a security guard that was booing me with the rest of the audience to protect my life in a situation where I needed him to protect me. So I agree with her on that. But then Lemmy ends up telling Scotty to go ahead and give her announcement. She tells everybody she's pregnant. I felt like they could have left this out of the episode because we already saw it last episode. So I just felt like this part was kind of pointless. So the next day, Tesheki, Anna, Mariah Lynn, and Biggie were all leaving the hotel, and Tesheki ends up finding out that Chrisean brought Marsh on the road and wants her to be a part of the show, and obviously Tesheki feels some type of way about that because her and Chrisean just made up, and she has beef with Marsh. Like, she was beefing with Marsh at one point. The two of them fought, and you know, Marsh jumped her with that other girl that Chrisean was friends with, and Chrisean is the one who got Marsh and the other girl to jump Tesheki, so maybe she feels like Chrisean is trying to set her up, and that's why she went off, but I don't know the full story because we only saw the part where the two of them were yelling at each other outside. Chrisean saying that she didn't bring Marsh to start any trouble, but Tesheki felt differently about that. Again, we don't know the full situation because it showed us what was happening when they were already outside arguing. But we definitely do see in the trailer for this season that Tesheki does end up fighting Marsh, so I know that at some point they are going to have a run-in. But the baddies are on two separate sprinters and they're on their way to the new house, and Tinka is on the sprinter with the big three and a few of the other girls, and Summer starts coming for Tinka, saying that Tinka was talking shit about Dolly on Baddies Midwest. She was basically saying that she didn't like Dolly. Now, Tinka says that she never came out and said she didn't like Dolly, but Dolly brought up the times in the season where Tinka made comments regarding Dolly and she felt some type of way about that. So I think Tinka said something on the sprinter about if Dolly wants to handle it, they can handle it, and Dolly just turns around and she starts taking off on Tinka. Like, she was definitely getting Tinka on that sprinter. And we definitely see the two of them get into it again in the previews for next week's episode, but it definitely looked like Dolly was winning. I won't give my thoughts on that until I see it in full, but it looked like Dolly had the upper hand. So those are my thoughts on this week's episode of Baddies USA. Let me know what you guys thought about this episode down in the comment section, and I'll talk to you guys in my next video.